Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Amateur Experts podcast, where we are actually experts this time. I'm just kidding. We are experts on absolutely nothing, but we would like to win you a little bit of money. I'm host Landon Oliver here, joined with my co-host Andrew Scott and our DFS co-host Jared Holly. This week, money-making matchups. In this episode, we're going to go over our smash or pass plays for all the positions that you need to know, as well as give you some free DFS lineups to help you win some money this week, and just a bunch of other just nonsense. What else we can get into? So yeah, look, we're just going to go ahead and start it right away. Go ahead and shoot our shot like we're Alec Baldwin right here with the running backs. Terrible. I believe. Let's restart. I'm just kidding. Okay, we're not gonna restart. So unfortunately, I have the distinction of getting tight ends this week. Not gonna do that first, but I believe that leaves Big Jared with the running back rotation. And you know how we do on this show, we like to start with our running backs because we all know how important they are. So we're gonna go straight. We're gonna skip over the smash this week. We're going straight to pass and sleepers for the running backs.
We're actually not going to do that. We are not going to let Landon say for Joe Mixon derail the show, and we're going to let Jared continue with the paid programming. So go right ahead, man.
Oh, well, Landon hates Joe Mixon. There's no doubt about that.
I do.
However, fantasy owners should not hate Joe Mixon this week. They're playing the Jets in a cookie cutter matchup. Andrew actually brought up a good thing earlier too. The Jets are actually really good against opposing quarterbacks, which is unbelievable. Like, I didn't really pay that close.
Well, it's not that they're good against opposing quarterbacks. It's just they don't have to throw.
They give up a small amount of fantasy points to the quarterback position because they're always down so heavily that teams just run the ball on them. It's not technically they are a bad matchup for fantasy quarterbacks, but it's not because the secondary is good. It's because the team as a whole is so terrible. Nobody has to throw on him, which is just another check in the box for Joe Mixon.
For Samaj P. Ryan this week. Go ahead.
The big selling point on Mixon this week is Cincinnati's not going to have to do a whole lot to win this game. The Jets are the Jets. They're really bad. They're missing their starting quarterback as well, and their number one wide receiver is going to be out. So that offense
caveat here. All right. Starting quarterback is the former quarterback for WKU, which is my alma mater. So we don't shit on Western Kentucky on this podcast. So shout out to Mike White. I hope you go in there and you shut all these damn Joe Mixon people up this week. Keep the Bengals off the field. Long sustained drives.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah, I'm not. But look, we support WKU on this podcast. I actually had U.S. history with Jack Doyle. Okay, so like
he's having a fine year too this year. Jack Doyle.
That's all right. The more Mo
I've
Allen
started
Cox
him
I
way
get,
too
the better.
much. I've played Jack Doyle a lot this year, actually.
Yeah, well, now you're playing Joe Mixon, so expect the same.
Scott does not like Joe Mixon.
Not at all.
I don't. I prefer my women upright and without facial surgeries.
To add to your point, the New York Jets are giving up on average 34 points to the running back position, which is the worst among any team in fantasy. So, it's going to be tough for Joe Mixon not to do well this week. And most of what he's lost out on this week has been in the passing game to Samaje P. Ryan for whatever reason. They're not using Mixon as a third down back, but they're probably not going to be in too many pass catching scenarios for the running back anyway. I imagine this is going to be a very run heavy week for the Jets. So
can we pull up I'm actually kind of curious, I know because I know whenever they beat Tennessee, I'm just kind of curious of what Derrick Henry's number, because the Jets actually won that game. I'm just kind of curious on how that actually played out as far as like work, which Derrick Henry's a bad example for workload. Yeah, Derrick Henry.
I know Derrick Henry was the running back 3 the week they played the Jets.
Yeah. I'm trying to look at
he
I'm
was
looking at how the carries
they gave up. They gave up the
33 attempts in that game.
That game went to overtime and they're missing both their wide receivers. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it still counts.
It was also a game where Jared called that the Titans would lose. So
Yep.
Is there
he's made some
another
pretty
game?
impressive calls so far this year.
Yeah, is there another game that the Titans are going to lose, Jerry?
Hopefully Sunday.
Hopefully.
After Joe Mixon puts 2 in the end zone, he goes for 100 yards.
Well, he's not playing in that game, so it's kind of impossible for him to beat the Titans.
No, but I wanted the Colts to win, and I want to win my little side bet with you. That's my goal for this week.
Yeah.
Anyways, Joe Mixon
100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then I deposit money into Jared's account. So I'm feeling pretty damn good considering he does not do that at all.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So any other Joe Mixon points you wanted to make, Jared?
No, I think a lot of it, we were talking about P. Ryan, which that's funny you even say. I think a lot of it too is they've kind of been easing Mixon's workload a little bit over the last few weeks because of injuries in the past, and they're winning games. Landon, you just take over, man. You just do this one for me.
No, because you said P, you're like P. Ryan, which is funny to say, and I'm just like, why is that funny to say?
It's just funny to say. I don't know, P. Ryan, for some reason it's funny to me. But no, like Mixon's gonna get workload, and at the end of the day, like they're heavy favorites in this game, and I'm gonna go with a running back every single time. It's gonna workload and they're favorites to win.
Absolutely. Landon might not be on board with you on this one, but I definitely am. I think he's going to be a smash play this week. I've already put him in one DFS lineup, and it probably won't be the last one.
Yep, I think he's good to go.
All right. It's not that I hate Joe Mixon this week. Like,
you hate Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I don't, because he's the ultimate fantasy like myth where like he's like every game. It's like I've heard this now for like years now where it's like, oh, it's just finally the breakout, and then he just doesn't do it. And then he's just so like he has the second most carries in the NFL, and he's just so inconsistent with it. Like he gets the workload, he's just so inefficient where, like I said, like you can look.
He's never played for a winning team until this season too.
Yeah, why is that?
Because they've had bad teams.
Andy Dalton.
They've had bad teams, man.
No, but that doesn't mean. I mean,
how is he inefficient though? He's been over 4 yards a carry almost every game this year, other than 2.
Yeah, and so here's his finishes this. Yeah, here's his finishes this year.
Right, his fantasy finishes haven't been great because
that's
he's not
what
a
I'm
3-down
saying.
pack. Yeah, well, not being.
That's what I'm saying. You're either like that's what I'm saying. He's getting the workload, consistent. But he's not. Like
not being consistent in fantasy and not being an efficient runner aren't the same thing, though.
Like I'm talking, he hasn't been efficient for fantasy purposes, which is what we're talking about is fantasy football. I'm not talking about real life. Like I'm talking about for fantasy football, he's RB11 on the year. So you're looking at him and you're like, yeah, he's an RB1 on the year. Like, how is he bad?
Because of 2 running back.
Yeah, because of 2
running back finishes. Yeah.
Yeah, because he finished running back 2, running back 35, running back 27, running back 21.
So does he not have a chance to finish? Does he not have
5,
hear me out, man.
20.
Does he not have a chance to finish number 2 again this week against the Jets?
He very well could, but as history shown, he can also finish as running back 27.
So for this week right here, he's a smash play.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a good play this week. I don't know. I just have this distinct like I get so sick of hearing about Joe Mixon like being good for fantasy football, and it's like, yeah, like he'll give you like for the price you have to acquire Joe Mixon, you're almost as likely, if not more likely, to have a running back 3 finish than you are running back 1, and he's just never worth the price for me. That's just all it boils down to, because even in season long, you're drafting him, as early in the second round, if not the end of the first round. That's a premium pick on a premium player, and I'm not spending that for running back 33, running back 27, running back 20.
What are you spending on?
I want somebody who's consistently an RB1
in the second round.
2 out of 4 years. So like, we're not going to count your 5 because we're still in the middle of it.
Yeah, I'm not even counting 5 years, but
he's been a 2 out of the 4 years so far he's played in his career. He's been a top 13. Like he was running back 10 his second year, running back 13 his third year.
And then what were the other 2 years?
his rookie year, he didn't have a great year. It was like running back 30 something. And then he was running back 49 last year because he played 6 games.
Which is another thing. He's constantly banged up.
I mean, 14 games, 16 games, 6 games, and then every game so far this year.
Yeah.
It's not that bad for a running back. It's pretty typical. Like before his heavily injured year last year, he missed 4 games over a 2-year period.
Yeah, I'm not talking about missing game. I'm talking about playing hurt. He's constantly playing with same with Julio Jones. Like Julio plays like the last couple of years. It's not like he misses a ton of games, but he plays with a ton of soft tissue injuries.
The one of the years he missed 2 games, he was the running back 10, missing 2 games.
Yeah,
on a bad team.
He's been a good player for fantasy when he's been out there. It's just, I mean, that's just outside of his rookie season. If he's been on the field, it's been a
if you look at
fantasy
season
asset.
long, if you look at season long, which is what you're doing, then yeah, like right now he's RB11. I'm not paying that premium pick for 2 top 5 finishes, and then the rest of the time I'm looking at an RB bottom tier RB2, RB3. That doesn't, like, to me, that's not being like, oh well, he finishes RB11. Yeah, off of what, 3-4 games, and then the rest of the time he was useless. Like that's, I don't want that in a premium, a player that I'm having to acquire at a premium price. I want consistency.
You would be making, if somebody's out there trying to trade high for Mixon, that's a mistake in its own right, but that's, that's a different discussion to have. But like, just speaking on draft price, like I'm sure the Joe Mixon owner is much happier than the guys that were going around him, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and J.K. Dobbins. Like they're probably a little bit happier than those owners.
Well, I mean, you don't really necessarily, like we always say, and I know you kind of took a shot earlier, we're not in the business of predicting injuries. So, I mean, the J.K. Dobbins thing you can throw out because nobody's drafting him and projecting him to tear his ACL 2 days after you draft him.
No, I'm not saying that that's a really predict. I'm just saying, like, you just use Clyde then, like before he was hurt.
Yeah, but so for example, would you, like right now, would you rather acquire James Robinson in the late 3rd, early 4th round where he was going, or would you be happier with Joe Mixon at the turn, pick 13? Who are you happy?
I'm happy with Joe Mixon for week 8.
That's what it was. I mean, yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm just telling you my issues.
That's essentially what it boils down to. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Like I'm just telling you my issues with you. Like you wanted to know my issues with Joe Mixon. That's my issues, is he's fool's gold. This could be the week he finishes RB1, RB2, but you also have the chance, and let's not act like Samaje Perine is not a big part of that team right now.
He is on 3rd downs. Whenever they need to throw the ball, he's the guy catching it, but I don't think they're going to have to do that very much this week.
Well, I mean, I think he only had 1 less carry last week.
They blew them out.
That could happen again this week too. If
that's the only thing I worry about is they get way up.
They let Perine run the game out last week, and that could very well happen again this week too if they start blowing the Jets out. So that is a realistic concern.
Well,
sure.
Perine made the most of those opportunities, which means they're not going to stop giving him opportunities because was very efficient with those opportunities.
Yeah, I'm just not about to pretend he's more.
I don't think he's
impressive
I'm not,
between the tackles
saying,
that Mixon is.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's a better running back. I'm just saying, like, that's a factor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I'm not a Joe Mixon guy. It's constant. For week 8, I guess I will give you the Joe Mixon, but I have so many people that's constantly, like, over the last 2 or 3 years tried to argue season long Joe Mixon with me, and I'm not hearing any of it. Like, y'all, yeah, like I said, you have fun with your RB11 on the year and your 13 out of 16 running back 3 performances. I mean, yeah, those 3 weeks look really good, and you're probably really happy with those 3 weeks. But
who would have went over him in drafts? Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Clyde and Dobbins and them were right behind him. The guys that were going,
Jonathan Taylor,
he was going in between.
He was going right where
those
JT
guys and Gibson, Najee, JT, Eckler, those type of guys. Like,
which you're much rather have outside of.
I would take Mixon over Gibson.
Yeah, I was gonna say outside of Gibson, like
you would definitely rather have Najee and Eckler.
Yeah, and Taylor,
which those guys were mostly all going ahead of him in consensus ADPs. But
we can look it up. I'm kind of curious now. Let's look it up because we're already this far in the discussion. Let's look it up because I know you can pull it up here and look at ADPs. In 2021, half point PPR. So let's look at where they were being drafted.
I usually use Fantasy Football Calculator, but this will work.
This is good. This is good. So
exactly what we're saying. He's right behind these guys that we just named off, and right in front of these other guys that we just named off.
He's 6 points higher than what his actual draft point.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, I like him for week 8 a lot.
Yeah, so he's about where he is. I mean,
where he should be.
For every Saquon's hurt, Nick Chubb was hurt, Antonio Gibson, but then you also have your James Robinsons, your Swifts, your guys like that bump up, into that top 10. So yeah, I mean that's about where he is. But like I said, I would much rather have went with somebody like a Swift or somebody like that over Joe Mixon, even drafting, just because, like I said, you're having a good 3 or 4 weeks out of the season where you're just dang, Joe Mixon went off, and the rest of the time you're getting bottom end running back 2 performances, and that's just that's just not what I prefer if I'm spending that high of a draft pick. And that's just talking about running backs. You're not even talking about the wide receivers that are going in that range either that he was being drafted in. Like Justin Jefferson's, guys like that. So, but that's season long. We're talking about with smash for week 8. Joe Mixon, smash for week 8. Should beat the Jets. Should be a pretty decent game for him. Let's get into the pass.
Yeah. Pass. Is Leonard Fournette. The Saints are starting to get healthy on defense, and I think that's going to be a big deal in this game. It's actually kind of a trap game for the Bucs, to be honest with you. I still think they squeak this out, but I think it's going to be a lot lower scoring than even what Vegas has it at the moment. Mike Evans, I'm sure that we will touch on that in a little bit. He has been owned against the Saints team, and I don't see the passing game being a factor. Godwin could be something if Gronk plays. That's definitely approached, but Fournette in this game, I don't like the Bucs this week at all. I really don't. I'm not picking them to lose, but offensively, I don't trust Tampa Bay this week, and especially with their running game.
You're picking against Tom Brady?
We're gonna play. We're gonna talk about Mike Evans in a little bit, but yeah, I mean, to your point, the Saints have given up the second least amount of fantasy points to the running back position on the year so far, only giving up 16 points collectively to running backs, and they've only given up top 10 points on 2 weeks so far this season, and that was the 9th most and the 9th most. So they're just barely under that top 10 threshold. So yeah, the Saints running defense is very strong. And one thing we've learned through these segments is whenever Jared tells you not to play somebody, you do not play that person.
That's worked out.
He's made bold calls on guys like Aaron Jones, Mark Andrews, DJ Moore in 3 consecutive weeks. All 3 guys, the weeks he said they were going to stink, they all stunk. So I can promise you I will not be playing Leonard Fournette this week.
I think that's a good call, and I like Fournette a lot. And honestly, I can see him getting some ownership on DraftKings and FanDuel because of what he's done the last few weeks. He's still got a cheap price tag, and I think people are going to go back to the well. It would be a good place to pivot elsewhere outside of Fournette.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so Uncle Lenny going to the retirement home for the week. Let's go now to your running back sleeper of the week, and this is kind of curious.
So there's nothing to feel great about right now outside of the depth chart got a little bit better. David Johnson could be tricked. He can be. This could really backfire really quick. I mean, it could be Phillip Lindsay getting more carries and more targets, but I do feel like Johnson is the better back of the two. Last week was an indication that they got him more involved in the offense, which was a good sign. And they're going to be down a lot in this game. And I think David Johnson is going to come into factors. They're going to look to check down quite a bit, and he can easily rack up quite a few targets and quite a few catches. It's nothing to feel excited about because it's a Houston Texans running back, but I'm in on David Johnson this week.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams have kind of been middle of the pack against the run this year. It hasn't been the defense that we saw last year.
And they've been struggling against catching running backs like that.
Yeah, they gave up that huge screen pass in the first drive of the game against Swift last week, like a almost 80-yard touchdown. And David Johnson has been the primary pass catching back for the Texans this year. I imagine Philip Lindsay will see an uptick in carries with Mark Ingram out the door, but I would expect David Johnson to still keep his particular role, which should be valuable this week considering they are double-digit underdogs this weekend. I imagine they should be down by quite a bit, should need to pass
16 points.
I would imagine behind only Brandon Cooks, David Johnson will probably be the most reliable pass catcher on the field. So, I think there's definitely some sneaky PPR upside there with David Johnson this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I agree completely. He's definitely the most polished pass catcher outside of Brandon Cooks on the whole roster, including wide receivers and tight ends. And then Philip Lindsay, as we know, is very seldomly used in the passing game.
There was a period of time where I thought Philip Lindsay was going to be something, man. And
I mean, I think he still could. I think he's a good runner. I think he just made a bad business decision signing with Houston. And for whatever reason, I don't know why. I mean, I know like Denver's got Javonte and Melvin Gordon and all those guys. So, I mean, I can understand if he asked for his release, but yeah, he definitely should have made a better business decision for himself because as we've seen this year, there have been a lot of running backs that have gone down, and he could have really put himself into a prime position with a better team to showcase his talents. So, yeah, I mean, I still think he's a good running back. That being said, I do think David Johnson is much better in the passing game, and I think that's going to bear its horns this week for sure. I actually have David Johnson starting in one of my deeper leagues, 20-team league. Actually, I have him going. So, good luck, David Johnson. Hope you do well this week.
That's all I got.
Yeah, so that wraps up our running backs.
Play Joe Mixon.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least for this week.
I mean, it is Halloween. So if there's anybody that's going to trick you or treat you, it's Joe Mixon, the ultimate trick or treat.
Oh, that was nice. That was a good one.
Thank you.
I like that.
Yeah. So let's get into the wide receivers now, which Drew is going to take over because I have the sad abyss of positions.
Yeah, I'm hoping to redeem myself from my worst smasher pass week of the year so far. My running backs were a disaster last week, and it's easily the biggest down week I've had so far this season. So I'm hoping Deebo Samuel can help me redeem myself here. He gets to go up against the Chicago Bears that is currently giving up the fourth most points to the wide receiver position, almost 35 fantasy points per game. You combine that with the fact that Samuel has a 34% target share that has went up to almost a 37% target share in the 2 games that Kittle has missed. And we've got at least one more game to go with Kittle on the IR. So you're talking about a target share that's damn near hitting 40% while Kittle's gone, going up against a depleted secondary. And so, I mean, obviously if you've got Kittle in your season long leagues, if you've got Deebo Samuel in your season long leagues, clearly you're starting him. I'm not telling you any breaking news here. What I'm saying is that you should be expecting a huge week out of him, and that it's going to be pretty tough for me to make FanDuel in any type of DFS lineup without Deebo Samuel in it this week. I know just on FanDuel, he is the 3rd most expensive wide receiver. And so with me thinking that there's a good possibility he ends up this week as the wide receiver 1 overall, it's going to be, pretty tough for me to leave him out. So, redraft, keeper leagues, dynasty leagues, whatever the case may be. If you've got him, obviously you're playing him, but then I also think that you can put him in your DFS lineups this weekend with confidence, and hopefully he will be a good building block for your team to make you some money. So Deebo Samuel against the Chicago Bears is my wide receiver smash this weekend.
Heck yeah, man. So obviously, I definitely like Deebo a lot. But speaking of hiding money, making money, just make sure you want to make some money, but you want to hide those chains because Deebo is coming to town.
Another good one. You're on fire.
Hey, that's what we do.
My grandmother gave me that chain.
It's my bike now. So yeah, man, I love Debo. Fantastic after the catch. As long as Kyle can continue manufacturing touches for him, whether it be in the running game, the screen game, deep passing, this guy can just do it all over the field. A little salty. I traded him before the season, in season long, but it is what it is.
You trained for Brandon Ayuk?
No, I definitely didn't. I traded him for Tyreek Hill. So so I mean, not terrible, but I mean, it is what it is. So I'm all on the Debo train this week. I'm for sure hopping on that bike with him, and we're riding down South Central Los Angeles.
So wide receiver pass, this one, I got to tell you, this one does not feel good. This one hits home for me this weekend because I've got Mike Evans as my wide receiver pass for this weekend. And so I'm actually playing Landon in our podcast redraft league, and I already don't have Devontae Adams this weekend. I could possibly not have Austin Eckler this weekend. And Mike Evans is one of the wide receivers I have in my lineup. So I'm not excited to say that I think he's going to have a bad week, but he's going to likely be shadowed by Marshawn Lattimore. And we've got a rather large sample size with these two. They've got quite a story with each other of how often they've matched up and how often Lattimore has shadowed him. So I'm not going to go way back because they have that long of a history together. But just looking at last year, they played 3 times with the two regular seasons and the 1 postseason matchup. In 3 games last year against the Saints, Mike Evans totaled 6 receptions for 69 yards and 2 touchdowns in 3 total games. Now, one argument he has in his favor is Antonio Brown is likely out. So that's one less pass catcher that's going to be out there that we all know that Brady loves. But Gronk is expected back this week. So one guy leaves, another guy comes back. So I do think that Godwin and Gronk somebody's going to catch the ball. Somebody's going to have a good week. Brady's been on fire. I expect him to, even if he doesn't put up
Godwin.
I do think Godwin's the play. Even if he isn't, even if he isn't quarterback 1 this week, like he's been overall so far this season, right? As we're speaking right now, Brady is the quarterback 1 on the season for fantasy. But even if he doesn't have that type of production, I still think he has a fine game, but I think it's more Godwin and Gronk. And even Tyler Johnson could possibly be in play here with Antonio Brown out. He could be another little sneaky player here. I didn't want to do a sleeper that was from the same team as my pass, but I think he could be a sneaky play as well. But so, with the matchup that he's dealing with, most likely with the injuries and bye weeks and things like that, you're not going to be able to set Mike Evans, but I would definitely just recommend that you temper your expectations. And this is the guy that I'm going to be fading in DFS this weekend. And, he's coming off a performance last week where he had 3 touchdowns and ended up being wide receiver 3 on the week, which, let me just say, for somebody to score 3 touchdowns and still not be the wide receiver 1, like, holy shit, Cooper Kupp and Jamar Chase were unreal last weekend. But he had a huge match. He had a huge game last weekend, which is it's almost just like another point for me to not want to play him this weekend, because if he has a huge game, we all know that means a stinker is coming to follow that up. That's just who Mike Evans seems to be. The only thing
that's your trick or treat right there.
He is the wide receiver version of that for sure. The only thing that scares me about this is just the fact that Antonio Brown's not going to be on the field. But with the matchup with the Marshawn Lattimore shadow, and the fact that more often than not he has gotten the better of him over his career.
I think too something in your favor as well is Antonio Brown is out. I think that benefits Godwin a little bit more than it does Mike Evans.
Godwin's more apt to move into
but Mike Evans is much more utilized in the red zone than everybody else, except for one Rob Gronkowski, who we know once they get in the red zone, that's Tom's guy to target. So I think that's a good point to make is, yes, AB is out, but with Gronk coming back, that takes away most of where Mike Evans' usage comes from. That's going to affect Mike Evans a lot more than Antonio Brown being out, how it affects Chris Godwin and some of those other guys.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, in season long leagues, you're not going to be able to bench him, but just temper expectations. He's coming off the wide receiver 3 overall week, and I would be expecting more like back end wide receiver 2 production this week, like wide receiver 20-ish,
like
type
7-8
of game.
points.
Yeah.
He might get, 5 catches, 60 yards.
He's as good as anybody in the red zone, so maybe he saves your week with a touchdown with just off of volume. And
could.
The offense is going to be in scoring position just because of how good the offense is. But just trusting the process, trusting what we've seen over the years, I don't feel good about playing Evans this week. And I'm definitely, if he does go off, I will not be the beneficiary of it in any of my DFS lineups.
That's what I was going to say. If you're looking to be the ultimate contrarian, like, he's a great pick for FanDuel or Draft Kings this week because he does have a ceiling. He can go off. He probably is not going to garner much ownership because there's a lot of sharks out there, obviously, that definitely know the Lattimore Evans matchup, and he's going to go completely unnoticed. So if you want to roll the dice on Mike Evans, if it hit, that'd be great, but I don't recommend it. Like Andrew said, like it's a bad idea.
He's definitely one of those guys that can burn you. Just because, he is an extremely talented player. This is not me coming out here saying that Mike Evans sucks. Mike Evans is a very talented wide receiver. So, he still has the ability to do it.
That's the thing too. Like with this show, like, I don't think whenever we talk saying somebody's like, a pass or something, we're not saying we don't like the player. Like,
no, it's a week by week.
It's a week by week thing. Like,
for example, I know we know that. I just still feel like
with Joe Mixon, like when I say like Joe Mixon, like I don't like the player. I just don't like him at all. At all. I don't like him at all. Pass on Joe Mixon every week. That's what I'm saying. A swerve jaw there.
He's a terrible human being. We can put that out there. But
I don't know. We know the legal trial. I don't know him personally.
Right. He might be a good person. Just you probably should.
People make mistakes. That's a pretty damn big mistake to make. But
yeah, nobody should be judged purely off their worst day. Yeah. But so wide receiver pass doesn't feel good, but it's going to be Mike Evans, and then
Alec Baldwin joke.
Wide receiver sleeper is none other than Mr. Cole Beasley. So the Miami Dolphins are giving up the third most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season.
That's right.
Almost 36 points per week to the wide receiver position. Now, Dawson Knox is not a wide receiver, but Dawson Knox has been Josh Allen's third favorite target on the season behind Emmanuel Sanders and Stephon Diggs. And he is out this week and multiple other weeks with a broken hand. And Cole Beasley did have 9 targets in the game against the Tennessee Titans where Knox got hurt in the middle of that game. They're coming off their bye week, so they have had a week since that game happened. But I imagine, coming off their bye, knowing they're going to be without Josh Allen's third favorite target, I think that Cole Beasley could be just as involved as he was in that Tennessee game. He's going up against a bad secondary, but I don't think he has a very high ceiling. Let me be clear about that. What I'm telling you with this sleeper pick is that I think he could be a safe plug and play option off your waiver wire if you're desperate. If if you're hurt by bye weeks and injuries and things like that, he's likely out on your waivers. And I think he could be somebody that you can plug and play and know that he does not. I don't think he's going to give you a goose this weekend. Now, the only thing that really concerns me with this, outside of the fact that he's probably going to be the third highest target at best, the main thing that really concerns me about this is they get up big on Miami and just don't have to throw that much in general. And that in which if the passing volume isn't really there, I imagine, Diggs and Sanders are probably going to eat up most of the targets that go around prior to them getting up big. But if Miami can be somewhat competitive and the targets can be there, I think he has the possibility for a little bit of a higher ceiling. But he's a guy that's probably hanging out there on your waiver wires. You can go snatch him up, plug him into your flex spot, play him this weekend if you're desperate and you need a play. So Cole Beasley is the sleeper for this weekend.
Yeah, and look, there's one thing about playing down in Florida. We know it is a COVID hotbed, and there's been nobody better at dodging COVID than Cole Beasley.
That's very true.
Yeah,
you don't want to play Tom Sweeney,
the unvaccinated champion of the world.
No, I'm all out on Tom Sweeney completely. Yeah. I think he's had like 11 catches in his entire career prior
to touchdown
to this week, and he did have a touchdown. But I'm out on Tom Sweeney. I do not think he will.
No, Tom Sweeney's got as much chance to succeed this week as Cole Beasley's rap career does, which is probably not that much.
Oh, Sweeney Tom.
Yeah. Wasn't that a movie? Sweeney Todd. That's the movie.
Sweeney Todd. Yeah. that was the reference.
Yeah. Oh, see, hey, I got I picked up what you were laying down.
Yep.
All right. So now, that takes care of the wide receivers. And to quote Simon and Garfunkel, hello, darkness, my old friend. And that is the tight end position here. Simon and Garfunkel, unless you are under the age of 30, and then it's probably Disturbed.
Right.
So, just I'm sure like people like listening to this, like there's kids listening to this, which kids is like anybody under 30, and they're probably listening to this and they're like, who's Simon and Garfunkel? Like, what is that? Is that another case? Is that another vaccine that Cole Beasley's not taking? Is that the Garfunkel?
He certainly would not take it if it was.
He would not. So let's get into tight ends. Smash this week is none other than the Philly boy, Dallas Goedert, who we all know Zach Ertz is out of the way. This is what this guy's been waiting for, is Zach Ertz to either retire or go to Arizona, which we didn't have that happening, but I believe the Colts and the Bills were the favorites. But look, Arizona has a need. It's worked out pretty decent down there. And all that does is just free Dallas Goedert. It worked out last week. Guess what? It's going to keep working out because they have a pretty decent matchup this week against the tight ends as well. And just running some numbers on Dallas Goedert, we all know how great he is in the red zone, but he also is a very fantastic in between the 20s option as well. And Jalen Hurts has struggled throwing the ball here recently. Fantastic in garbage time, great garbage time quarterback. But let me see here. Yeah, he should be moved, but he's so far is the 5th highest graded receiving tight end on the season. He first game without Zach Ertz, 64 of 69 snaps, 27 of those coming from the slot, 35 routes on 41 dropbacks with a 14.7% target share. Caught the 2-point conversion. Only had 3 catches, but turn those into 70 yards. This is the week I think he gets into the end zone without Zach Ertz. I think he's going to be targeted, and I think this is a big smash for Dallas Goedert.
I like it.
Anybody have any Dallas Goedert jokes? Or
no, I think this could be the week where Hurts basically he knows he's one step closer to being done. And
yeah, that's what worries me a little bit.
There's a lot of people, myself included, that think Detroit could win this game. And I think if that's the case, this is the best case scenario. If you play Dallas Goedert or anybody from this game in general, if it shoots out, there's potentially a lot of points that can happen back and forth in this.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be a competitive game. I mean, Detroit has been damn close to winning a lot of their games this year, and Philly is one of those teams that's kind of on their level from a talent perspective. And look, Jalen Hurts has been there. Like, if you look at him fantasy wise, he's been great, but real life football, if you're just watching the games, it's absolutely brutal to watch. And I mean, he always comes through to just don't turn on the game until the 4th quarter if you're a Jalen Hurts fantasy owner. But regardless, he gets it done, and that's all that really matters. But for fantasy, we don't give a shit about the real life stuff as long as he's starting. But that's the issue, is if he keeps sucking enough fantasy wise, eventually the Eagles are going to care.
Yeah, I know there's kind of been some talk, this week even about if he doesn't perform that well.
The Gardner Minshew noise.
Gardner Minshew talk is kind of getting a little vocal here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and who knows? Maybe even Deshaun Watson. I mean, who knows? But this week at least, Hurts is starting this week. Goddard is, I would say, probably it's between him and Devontae Smith for his most trusted target. So I think Goddard's going to have a great week this week.
Yeah, man, you got to know, like, the Philadelphia, Miami, like all the masseuses there, just are they have their butts puckered, like. They're so nervous right now. Like,
they probably got their fingers hiding too. Deshaun has got to do some strange things for a piece of change.
Yeah. They are. I don't know if I've ever seen so many masseuses pay attention to the NFL trade deadline.
Right. It's happening though. We're here. Deshaun Watch and Watch 2021. It's not just the NFL fans, it's also your local masseuse as well.
Yeah. If really the Patriots should have just made the move because Kraft could really hook him up with some.
Well, I'm saying, his spot was Miami. So, Robert Kraft's probably like, hey, if you get to Miami, you hit me up. I got some spots for you.
I was going to say, them owners, man, they got it all down.
That's probably the man, there was a report that came out that Miami's the only team he's cleared his no trade clause for. And that's probably why he probably saw Kraft's plug down there and was like, I mean, shit, if I'm going to go anywhere, I got to go down there.
Yeah. And as Kraft has shown, you can pay them off. It will work.
Yep. He has shown that it will work indeed.
Yeah. They point the security cameras away from the building so they don't catch you leaving. It's perfect for the old rub and tug. So that takes care of that. Now we will actually go to Miami. Let's go to Miami. And here we go. Mike Gesicki this week. He is going to be the running back, or not running back. See, I don't want to do tight ends. It's just, I'm trying to manifest something. So he's going to be the tight end pass of the week. He does have a pretty interesting matchup here when you look at the data. He is only one of multiple top 5 tight ends. He's one of, just a few players with multiple top 5 tight ends. Most of that has come recently. 94% of his snaps have come out wide. That being said, Tua, there's been a lot of distractions over the last week with Tua. That could definitely play a factor in this as well as the matchup that he is going up against here with the Buffalo Bills. I think they have a bad taste in their mouth from their last game. They were off last week. That defense especially kind of got exposed. I think they're coming out with something to prove this week against Tua and those pass catchers there. I think Devontae Parker also has a very good chance of being back, which is just one more guy that's going to be there to catch the pass. And look, tight ends, as we all know, for the most part, you're very touchdown dependent. Now, Mike Gesicki has been one of the very few that has garnered the targets, but I think the Bills make him a priority this week, as well as Devontae Parker being back. It might be closer to one of those 5 catches instead of one of those 10 catches. And whenever you have those 5 catches, you don't get into the end zone, you're pretty much toast on the week.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of all that, the Bills have been top 5 against the tight end position this year so far, and the only tight end one performance they've given up has been against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, you can kind of understand Travis Kelce having a tight end one performance, but outside of that, they haven't given up a tight end one performance yet. They've already seen Miami once this year as well, and Gesicki did not fare very well. I believe it was actually after that week where I told you that you could bench Mike Gesicki, so and you could drop Mike Gesicki. So this
time it's on me.
Yeah, hopefully your pass for Gesicki goes much better than mine did. But yeah, the Bills matchup was the one that I was coming off of, I believe, making that call where he did not have a very strong week either. So I do think Mike Gesicki is definitely a fade this weekend.
Yeah, hey, Jared, I know you're a pretty big Mike Gesicki champion down there.
My only concern is they're going to most likely trail in the game and have to air the ball out quite a bit. And he does line up at wide receiver. The matchup's not good for Gesicki whatsoever, but he may still see a lot of volume, and volume can equal points like real quick. That's the only concern I have on Gesicki. Outside of that, I'm with you on a fade.
Yeah. All right, so that brings us to our sleeper, and we are going to stay in the state of Florida like Robert Kraft. And that is the Jacksonville Jaguars, brand new tight end, Dan Arnold, the man with 2 first names. In the 2 full games with the Jaguars, he has ran 55 passing routes. He's ran 55 routes in the last 2 games for 8 catches and 91 yards on 13 targets. I think he's going to get even more comfortable this week. He's only going for $2,800 if you didn't know. This is the definition of a big sleeper as well. Who would have thought that he was the glue that was holding the Panthers together. Because since they traded him, he has not looked good at all. And if we look here, like I said, you look at the numbers, he's running routes. He hasn't got a ton of targets with those routes. That being said, it looks like everything's kind of playing in the thing of, they're just trying to get him more comfortable. And I think they're going to be throwing quite a bit in this game as well. Trevor Lawrence has improved massively. Over the last 3-4 weeks of the season, you can just tell the growth there. He's getting more comfortable. Now Urban's still going to Urban. That's just what he does. But the big thing is, that was the one big missing piece, especially with DJ Shark going down, was the tight end position. They went out, they traded for this guy, they gave up a pick for this guy. As we know, coaches are going to want to prove they're right. They're going to want to feature him. And eventually, all those routes ran, that's going to become more and more targets. And if you didn't know, this dude is athletic as shit. So he's one of those guys, one of these rare tight ends that kind of similar to Mike Gesicki, where he can just line up all over the field. And he's, he can take a small 5-yard catch and he can take it 15-20 yards down the field very quickly. So yeah, just if you're having some bye week issues, some injury issues at the tight end position, I think Dan Arnold might be a decent dart throw for you this week.
Yeah, Seattle, who they're playing this weekend, they're kind of middle of the pack against tight end, but most of that is skewed by 2 games, one of which was week 1 against Indy, where the Indianapolis tight ends really didn't do much in that matchup. And then the other was this past weekend against New Orleans, whenever, the passing offense in general outside of Alvin Kamara wasn't really working. And then the tight end position just in general from the Saints has not been that impressive. So outside of those 2 games, for the most part, if you started your tight end against the Seahawks, you've been pretty happy. That includes games like Pittsburgh and Minnesota, teams that haven't really featured the tight end all that much either, but they were also able to produce against the Seahawks. So this matchup, while it looks like middle of the road on paper, could actually be a little bit better than you might think. So, Dan Arnold could definitely be in play this weekend.
I like Arnold. One other person I would say maybe possibly as well, because of Eric Ebron being out officially with Steelers this week, is rolling out that Big Pat Freiermuth. I can never say his name.
The Muth.
But he might be another option. I'm sure he's on waiver wires in majority of leagues too, so he would definitely be someone to look at as well.
And he's just a good player in general. Like he's just a good football player. He's good at the game. So if he does have the tight end room to himself this weekend, I definitely would like that for sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Big Freiermuth. Let's see what's going on.
Freiermuth.
So that takes care of the tight ends. I am not going to watch the games because I will be at the Colts game, but I can only imagine getting the updates on the big scoreboard they have there and being immensely disappointed in everything I've said in the last 20 minutes. So yeah, don't hold it against me. So now let's move on to the quarterbacks. And normally we do this before the show. We pick a consensus, quarterback rankings, but we were kind of kept going back and forth. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. So this is our chance to, I guess, for you guys to kind of see behind the scenes, behind the process, to see how we decide on these quarterback rankings. And basically it just boils down to, we look at the matchups, we argue for a little bit, and then one person picks, and we're just like, you know what, fuck it, let's just roll with that. So yeah, we're gonna go through here. We are going to go with our quarterback smash of the week. Any names in particular you guys are kind of looking at right here?
I know the big one for me that sticks out behind the the obvious ones. Like I could say
Stafford.
I could say my guy, Matthew Stafford.
Allen.
I could say Josh Allen. But going a little bit farther down the line, the guy that sticks out for me is Kirk Cousins. And, he's on prime time, which normally for Kirk Cousins is kind of scary because Kirk Cousins in prime time in the past has not played out well. Yeah. But he is going up against the Dallas Cowboys defense that while they have improved in terms of making plays and creating turnovers and things like that, they also are still susceptible to giving up points and
big plays on top of that.
And Kirk Cousins has the receivers and running backs to his disposal to make those big plays happen. They gave up a top 5. Tom Brady was a top 5 quarterback week 1. Jalen Hurts was a quarterback 1 week 3. Sam Darnold was a top 2 or 3 quarterback week 4 against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, some of the quarterbacks that they have shut down have included Daniel Jones and Mac Jones. So not quite the quality of quarterback that Kirk Cousins is at this point in his career with the weapons that he has around him. So it's Dak Prescott not expected to play. It's at Minnesota. It's a home game. If Dak doesn't play, I 100% expect the Vikings to win this game. And I think that Kirk could have himself. Yeah. I think Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, I think they all could have great games this weekend, despite the fact that the Cowboys defense is somewhat improved. I still do think they can be beaten, and I think Cousins could end up taking advantage of that. So for me, that would be my pick for the smash.
Yeah, and that's pretty interesting too. Those stats that you read off, because as we know, there's one thing that the Cowboys love doing. It is making a Jones look bad. So yeah, there's that zinger. For me, I'm kind of targeting somebody in the same, I guess, kind of realm as that, maybe a little bit lower down, but I'm looking at Matt Ryan this week. I think the emergence of Kyle Pitts over the last couple of weeks has really helped that offense reach a new level. Cordero Patterson has finally kind of overtaken that role and is doing fantastic in the pass catching role as well. And then I think, man, look, you can only hold Calvin Ridley down so long before eventually, the guy's gonna explode. He's too good of a talent to not have a big game all year long,
especially with the targets he's seeing.
Yeah, and look, the matchups there. Outside of the first 3 weeks, whenever Carolina was playing a bunch of really bad teams, and you could say injuries have possibly led to it, but the Carolina defense is not been playing very well, as of late. So I think along with Matt Ryan playing well, Kyle Pitts coming on, Carolina not playing well at the moment at the defensive side of the ball, and of course Calvin Ridley. I look for my boy Matt Ryan to kind of show some people that he is not over the hill just yet. I think he's still a viable option at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I'm fine with that pick as well. He's kind of on that fringe to where you try to decide if you want to pick him as a smash or a sleeper. He's kind of right there in that quarterback ranking level to where you have to kind of pick which way to go. So yeah, I mean, he would have been one of the guys that I would have picked as one or the other as well, outside of Cousins. So I don't have any problem with that pick either.
Yeah, big
Jared, you have another name you want to throw in the ring, or somebody that you want to endorse that we've already brought up?
No, I'm with you guys on both those picks. I'm really big on Kirk Cousins. I have been all year. Both of those wide receivers. I mean, he's got a lot of talent around him with Dalvin Cook as well. But I do feel like Matt Ryan, especially you said Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, I was reading something the other day. I found it pretty interesting. He goes out of his way to burn the Carolina Panthers because of the draft day and that whole situation. So it could be a weird revenge game kind of narrative to it, which I don't believe in, but it seems like he burns Carolina quite a bit. So if I had to pick the two, I would lean towards Minnesota because I just feel like their roster is more talented. But I do like Matt Ryan, and Cordell Patterson has been lining up at wide receiver, running back, everything. They're a really interesting team. They score a lot of points, so those are both really good plays.
Yeah. So now, that's kind of who we're targeting for our smash. Who we're looking at passing on here. I think for me, pretty easily right now is going to be Dak Prescott because he is not playing. So that just makes me look really good whenever he scores 0 this week.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Floor.
Definitely would not recommend playing him this weekend.
Yeah.
For me, the guy, this one is also kind of obvious. I think if you're somebody that just follows along with rankings and things like that, and that's how you base how you make your lineup, this one would be pretty obvious, like just looking at this expert consensus rankings here. But, and I don't even know if he's on the screen right now. It's that bad. But yeah, he's not. I have to scroll down just a little bit more. Right here at quarterback 21 comes in at Tua. He's playing against the Buffalo Bills. Now, so, if you see quarterback 21, clearly, if you're looking at the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings for the week and you are judging your lineup based off that, you're already not playing him. But I believe there could be a lot of people out there based off the fact that he was the quarterback 1 last week. He was the quarterback 10 the week before that. I do think there could be people out there that are ready to just, fire Tua back up because of the hot streak that he's on. And I do not think that is a very good idea. Clearly whoever, is included in the Fantasy Pros experts consensus rankings does not think so either. But the Buffalo Bills are the number 1 defense against fantasy quarterbacks, giving up a league low 12.8 fantasy points per week. And that is including a matchup against the Miami Dolphins already, where they, I believe, only had like 7 or 8 fantasy points. So, they were able to control Big Ben, Tua already. They were able to limit Patrick Mahomes, Ryan Tannehill. I'm not going to talk about the Houston game because nobody cares about limiting Davis Mills. But for the most part, this Buffalo Bills defense has been very, very good against the quarterback position for fantasy. So while Tua has seen some recent success, I would not recommend rolling him out there. So again, he's kind of down the list if you're looking at the expert consensus rankings. But I do believe there are people out there that possibly picked him up for bye weeks or whatever the case may be, and he put up a big couple of weeks, and they think they might have somebody that they can continue starting. And I do not recommend that this weekend. So that would be the guy I throw out there.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I'm with you on Tua as well. The one that's really interesting to me is, and it's not because talent or anything, the game could just get out of control, is Joe Burrow. I think Burrow's, man, he's got weapons left and right, but I do think that game could get out of hand really quick and they could preserve him, because I do feel like Cincinnati right now, especially with a winning record, they know how they got there. And that guy's a big part of the reason why they're there. And the last thing they want him to do is get rolled on when they're up by 21 points. So that could be something to look into.
I'll say, to be fair though, like I think if that game does get out of hand, it
could be because of him.
It's going to be because of Joe Burrow. So I mean, realistically, you could look at him like, yeah, he's getting benched in the second half, but at that point, he could already have 4 touchdowns. And
there's definitely a possibility of that.
Yeah. So now, I mean, we've touched on a little bit on Joe Burrow. Like I said, I'm taking Dak Prescott because screw you guys. We touched on Tua. I think another one, Sam Darnold, even though he has a really good matchup against Atlanta. He looks really, he's looked so bad compared to the first 3 weeks that now they are talking about bringing in Deshaun Watson. To that team. So I mean, there's been rumors around that. So I mean, whenever you look bad, that you're looking into bringing a guy like that in, to your city to terrorize whoever. I mean, you've got to be playing some bad football. So yeah, that's just kind of guys that I'm kind of low on this week. Daniel Jones could be another one. Kansas City, they're really pissed off right now. They're actually fighting the fans on Instagram literally today.
Wow.
That's pretty, like Tyrann Mathieu and some other guys are commenting on how toxic the fan base is.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that team's imploding. That being said, there's one person that can make you look good every week. It is Daniel Jones. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with their defense. So now let's get into some sleepers here. We're looking at guys outside of the top 12 consensus rankings right here in front of you that could have big weeks. I'm going to start off. Look, I'm banging the damn table. It's my boy's week this week. It's Big Carson's week. Just for example, since week 4, he is averaging over 17 fantasy points per game. Basically, after the ankle sprains, 2 sprains, since he's been getting healthier, he has been quarterback 10 overall in fantasy with a 68% completion rate, almost 9 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns, a big 0 interceptions. And the guy leads the NFL in passer rating on throws over 40 yards. So he's bombing it deep. He's been accurate. He's not turning the ball over. He's getting into the end zone. I think this week, granted over the last 4, he's pretty much averaging 2 touchdowns and 0 picks a game at this point. I think this is the week. He might throw a pick, but I think he's going to throw 4 or 5 touchdowns this week. I think he's going off. And I'm putting it on the table. I know a lot of it's because I'm going to be there. I'm going to be rocking the jersey on Sunday. I got it ready to roll. And I'm calling my shot with it. Like I said, getting my Alec Baldwin on. And I'm going straight in, man. Carson Wentz is going down. He's about to annihilate this week. I'm not saying they're going to win the game because I like drinks and shit like that. All I'm saying is if you need a quarterback to play because of a bye week, you gotta, for whatever reason, he's still on a lot of people's waiver wires. I'm guessing because of last year, but this year the dude has been awesome. Like I said, once he's gotten after, pretty much once that injury has kind of healed and it keeps getting better every week. You're seeing a lot more mobility out of him too. Like last week in the rain against San Francisco, he converted the big 3rd and 15, had the 17-yard run to get a first down. So I mean, he's mobile again. He's accurate again. He's playing really as well as. This is a crazy stat to me that I told Jared this the other day. I called Jared and I'm like, man, you want to hear something wild? So in 2017, you remember Carson Wentz, the MVP candidate before he got hurt against Drew's team, who destroyed all of his hopes and dreams because they love to injure people, who coincidentally injured him again at the beginning of this year. I don't know why the Rams fucking hate Carson
Also
Wentz.
Injured Russell Wilson this year.
I don't know why y'all can't feel like you can play a fair game, but tired of y'all injuring Carson Wentz. Leave the man alone. But since then, 2017, the MVP year, the year everybody talks about, Carson Wentz is this guy's, he's the next big quarterback. I believe he ranked number 3 on the top 100 NFL players voted by players after that year. He had 5 games that year with a passer rating over 100. Do you know how many games he has with a passer rating over 100 through 7 weeks of this year? 5. You are correct.
I love those type of questions because I'm always set up to succeed.
Exactly. You'll never go wrong. I'm trying to lead you to the well here. So yes, he has already matched his total for 100 plus passer rating games in 7 weeks, which is the same number that he had the year he won MVP. So the guy realistically is balling out. He is playing awesome. And I'm expecting more. Like this team's, the offensive line's finally going to be at 100%. T.Y. Hilton's going to be back. Mo Alley Cox is getting more involved. And look, if there's one thing about T.Y. Hilton coming back, if he's called the Ghost for a reason. And if there's one day that the Ghost is going to show up outside of the city of Houston, Texas, it's going to be on Halloween. So yeah, let's fucking roll, boys. Let's wrap this shit up. Let's roll.
Yeah, so I actually picked up Carson Wentz in a league where I had Lamar Jackson on by. Thankfully, he was on my waiver wire in that league, and I picked him up, and I am playing him this weekend. I'm fully on board with this pick. The Titans are the 4th worst team against the quarterback in terms of fantasy, so obviously a great matchup, and Michael Pittman is playing amazing and should also have a great game to go along with that. So I'm fully on board with this pick. That would have also been my pick, but I figured, might as well let you have that one since you guys are the residence Colt fan and you're going to be at the game.
We can all talk about Carson Wentz on this show. There's never enough discussion.
I want to give the 1 or 2 people that made it this far into the show another option, and it's one you're not gonna like. So you've already given one you do like. I'm gonna give you one you don't. And that's going to be none other than Teddy Two Gloves against the Washington football team. And this one is
I thought you were
purely
going to say
one.
Ryan Tannehill. I was going to be like, you get the hell off.
No, I do think Tannehill will be fine this weekend, but no, that's not the pick.
He's going to be bad.
This one is much more gross, but this one is purely matchup based. The Washington football team has passed even the Kansas City Chiefs in terms of being bad against the quarterback for fantasy. They are the worst defense against the quarterback for fantasy football. And just to give you an idea of how bad, after being the 26th best against the quarterback in week 1, where they only gave up 14 points that weekend.
They made Daniel Jones look like a god.
To the tune of being a top 3 quarterback that week, and then giving Josh Allen the quarterback 1 performance, and then top 5, top 8, top 6. Now there was a little bit of Patrick Mahomes and like Aaron Rodgers in there. Yeah, top 5. That's basically what this defense is. They've played some good quarterbacks, but they've also played against Daniel Jones and Jameis Winston as well. So that has not stopped them from giving up incredible performances to the quarterback position. So he gets Jerry Jeudy back this weekend. I don't really love Teddy Bridgewater as a passer. I don't think he's an incredible quarterback. He does not move the needle for me. But in fantasy, if you are digging deep, if you are looking for somebody to get you through the bye weeks and your waiver wire is scarce, I do think he is a startable option this weekend, and he is incredibly cheap on daily as well. And somebody, you're talking about like a Bridgewater Sutton stack or something like that could pay dividends if it hits. Now, again, it's one of those things where you're trusting the matchup more than you're trusting the player, because certainly you're not trusting Teddy Bridgewater to be good.
Just start Carson. Just do it.
If Carson Wentz is available, 100% play him over Teddy. But the reality is, with how good he has played, even though he is out there in some leagues, I would think there are going to be leagues where he's also going to be owned, and you might need other options. And I do think that while it's going to be gross and I would not recommend watching the game, I think Teddy could be a fine streaming option this weekend. And this is purely 100% matchup driven, and not me, promoting Teddy Bridgewater as a good quarterback. But I do love the weapons around him, though. Sutton, Jeudy, Fant, Tim Patrick. It's a damn shame Denver doesn't have a good quarterback.
It will next year.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is going to look really good in that offense next year. But yeah, so that would be. The way
Aaron Rodgers is talking about Green Bay yesterday, I don't know if he's fucking leaving.
Yeah, that's going to be really. If they keep playing that well, it's going to be a really interesting storyline to follow.
Hey, real quick though, who called that shit yesterday, Jared? Who called that game last night?
Oh, you did.
You damn right I did. Jared, I said everybody's off of them. Oh, they're down their top 3 pass catchers. They're running out practice squad guys.
Who's my Super Bowl pick to come out of the NFC?
That's true. That is the
Green Bay Packers. Yep.
Yeah. To be fair though, there's like 7 teams that have lost 1 game in the NFC. So
NFC's brutal, man. It's so top heavy.
Really annoying.
Yeah. So, I was gonna say, I think everybody, if you have like the Rams, the Bucks, for all the Cardinals fans that picked the Cardinals, because anybody outside of them definitely didn't pick them to go to the Super Bowl. But I think all those teams are looking good right now going to the Super Bowl.
So you want to hear like something I was thinking earlier, since we kind of brought this up, we brought up Packers. You know how their road to Green Bay could go? So think about this. The Saints are getting healthy on defense.
Yeah, but they got
we know Mike Evans is going to be taken out of this game. What if the Saints beat Tampa on Sunday? Then they drop to 2 losses. The Rams playing the hardest division in NFC. They play a brutal schedule in the NFC. And they play Arizona again
this week. So
yeah, yes, I understand that, but they still have got some tough games.
And then they get the Titans the week after that.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah. If the Packers,
Tennessee Titans, yeah.
Yeah,
if the Packers were to
be a big Rams,
stay hot, man, like it has to go through Green Bay, the playoffs. That could be tough.
It could be very tough. Yeah. That is a very good point.
Their defense is playing pretty good.
Their defense is playing very well. They don't have Jair Alexander either, so that's a big. That's crazy to think about. Coincidentally, they're playing well whenever Kevin King left. So Kevin King.
Addition by subtraction on that one.
Yeah.
Oof.
So outside of Wentz and Teddy Two Gloves, anybody else you want to throw in the ring for a streamer / sleeper quarterback for this season?
I got one, and it's ugly. Sam Darnold. I think
going against Landon here because he said that it could be a pass candidate. Okay.
So I think that game could shoot out. I don't believe in Atlanta's defense whatsoever. It's in a dome. It's fast paced. I think there's a lot of weapons in that game that I like. I think Darnold could not lay an egg this week and actually play like he did the first couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, I mean, he does seem to do well against bad teams. But like I said, I think Atlanta.
He's played terrible though.
I think Atlanta is a little bit better than what their record says they are. I think they're kind of hitting their stride here the last couple of weeks.
They definitely are better than they'd shown earlier in the season on the offensive side of the ball, but we can't also forget that they are the team that gave up that quarterback one performance to Tua last weekend that we were talking about earlier. And really the only good defensive performance they've had against the quarterback position all year has been against Daniel Jones. And Zach
Look, if there's somebody playing worse than Daniel Jones right now, it's Sam Darnold.
Yeah, that is very true. That is very true.
He has better weapons though, but
outside of Daniel Jones and Zach Wilson, they've given up top 10 performances to Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, Taylor Heineke, and Tua. So it's definitely a very beatable defense, especially in the secondary. It's just tough because Darnold, which I mean, if you didn't know,
look, Sam Darnold got benched last week.
Well, yeah, if you didn't know, your quarterback is not going to be as good without Christian McCaffrey as he is with him. And breaking news if you didn't already know that. And he's looked completely different since CMC went out. He was essentially the line for me on between Teddy Two Gloves and Darnold. Neither are good quarterbacks. Both have great matchups. I could not. While I chose to trust the matchup with Teddy, I just could not trust the matchup with Darnold.
Now, if I had to pick the two, I would go with Teddy. Teddy's got more weapons too at the end of the day, but I definitely like. There's something about dome games. It's faster paced.
Sure.
I don't know, man. Atlanta's defense is not that good. They're not.
And
Darnold being benched, it could be his motivation. It could be motivation for Darnold to actually get out there and try to keep his job too. So
yeah, I mean, Matt Rule said they're rolling him right back out there. He's still their starter. So I do expect him to, to play this game, and the defense is definitely beatable. And he does, I mean, while his weapons might not be as good as Teddy's, DJ Moore is extremely talented. And then Robbie Anderson is still a good receiver.
Great, but let's not discount AJ Terrell on the other side for Atlanta. That dude is like balling out at that cornerback position right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of like the top 4 or 5 cornerbacks in the NFL right now. So let's hold off too. Like I know the other parts of Atlanta aren't that good, but like that's a bad dude on the other side of DJ Moore this week.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I agree.
And so yeah, he's got a bad dude like on that side. He also has a bad dude throwing him the ball, and I don't mean that as a compliment. He's bad.
Yeah, that is not a compliment.
He's bad.
It's a sleeper.
Oh, okay. I'm not. Never mind. I'm not gonna say what I thought you said there. I thought you said a slavery, and I was like, it is. It honestly is. I was like, yes, DJ Moore is enslaved to Sam Darnold, because it's terrible. It is terrible.
All right, we have officially hit rock bottom.
Mm-hmm. I didn't mean that in like that term. I meant like in a football, like pass catch quarterback to wide receiver.
I know.
I just realized how bad that sounded now.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
It's definitely getting canceled now.
Yeah. This show is a wrap. If the
Alec Baldwin joke didn't do it in the beginning, then
it's been a fun 55 episodes, fella.
Yeah, that's definitely didn't mean it in that way.
All right, let's just go ahead and smooth transition it into some DFS then.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. So before we get canceled, let me roll out some lineups here.
Save our show and make the viewers some money real quick so they'll forget what we ever said.
So just me. If anybody's going down, it's just me.
No, this is a group effort. If we go down, we're going down together.
If you're one of the 5 people offended by that, then
So we'll start with FanDuel first.
Maybe we'll get more views.
And you never know, man. It's so it could happen. So we'll start with FanDuel first. And so there's several games that could go. There's several games that can be shootouts, man. Like I feel like you guys tell me how you feel about this too. The Chargers defense is not as good as we thought it was going to be. Like it's definitely looked pretty bad over the last few weeks, especially. I can see New England shooting out with them. So one way I wanted to go on both FanDuel and Draft Kings. Originally wasn't going to go this way, but I've looked at some, like several different stats, and I like Herbert a lot this week on both sides. I think Justin Herbert can hit ceiling this week as well. And we know how Bill likes to take out the number one receiver for whatever team they play, which I'm kind of glad that a lot of people think Keenan Allen still is the number one guy there. But the guy with the ceiling right now is Mike Williams. Mike Williams he's been their main man all season, and he's definitely the guy that gets in the end zone. That was the only knock I ever had on Keenan Allen because he's a great route runner. He just never scores touchdowns. Like, I don't know why he just never could get in the end zone. So I want to go for Herbert. Yeah. I want to go with a Herbert Mike Williams stack. At running back, we're going to save some salary. We're going to go with David Johnson. He was one of our sleepers against the Rams. The Rams have not been fantastic against running backs in general this season. Like you said earlier, Drew, they gave up a huge one to DeAndre Swift. I'm not saying David Johnson's in the same league as DeAndre Swift at this point of his career, but I think he easily could. He could get 6-7 targets, and he's going to take over majority of the run game as well. So I really like David Johnson. Running back 2 is Joe Mixon. And I don't even need to say anything. I'm betting my DFS reputation on Joe Mixon this week. So I really feel like the wide receivers have had their time to shine. They've won some games that a lot of people had them out on where they had to throw the ball basically to, in their minds, keep up, even though they blew out Baltimore. I think Mixon's a smash, and like he's locked in. Drew, you'll like this one. I got Debo as the second wide receiver on FanDuel. Debo's been amazing this season, much better than I ever expected him to be. I kind of thought he fell into that gadget receiver role. Not so much anymore. This guy's doing everything. He's getting the target shares. There's been no Kittle. Brandon Ayuk is playing special teams at this point. It's a Debo's.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, man. I don't understand that at all. But it's
definitely
traded
up in the first round for Brandon Ayuk. They're not using him. Traded up in the third round for Trey Sermon. They're not using him. No. I'm just glad that they keep making these mistakes. Trey Lance is TBD.
Yeah, it's insane. Like I drafted Trey Sermon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was never on the Trey Sermon thing, but I think Brandon.
I think he had the talent and definitely could, like, he could have took over as their number one back.
I wasn't enough him out of Ohio.
Brandon Ayuk balled out last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say Brandon Ayuk, on the other hand, like he's shown he can like go off.
Some of that was out of necessity because they were without Kittle and they were without Debo, guys like that last year. So, I mean, some of it was out of necessity, but
even then, like, you don't just stop using a guy like that. Like,
yeah, he's toast, man.
Like, I don't know. I feel like there's something going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing, that the coaching staff just isn't impressed. Because, I mean, there is no logical explanation other than that for him to go from the usage he saw last year to
as much hype as Kyle Shanahan has gotten. We've seen some of the logical decisions he's made over the last few years.
Yeah.
So eventually that grace period is going to have to end because.
But one good thing is, if you are a Kyle Shanahan guy and he does love you, he will build the entire game plan around you, and he's been doing that pretty much all year for Debo. So that guy is just full steam ahead.
Let's hope we get another week out of it. The third wide receiver. This one right here, it's the matchup and the fact that they're missing DJ Shark. I really like Marvin Jones a lot this week. Like, the matchup is really good. He's getting a ton of targets the last 2 weeks too. Like I think Laviska Shenault has been everyone's, like, he was the darling coming into the season for fantasy people, and it's just not happening. It's just not happening. He was Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk was the same way where every YouTube guy that was out there, and I can't blame him. I thought the talent was there too. And
that's right, Drew. Every YouTube guy out there was all on him.
Us damn YouTubers, man. I was driving the Chenault train, man, and it has not worked out. Which I fully believe that.
Hey, Urban's
the biggest, I think the biggest majority of that is that they are underutilizing him. But still,
yeah.
Regardless of how it's happening, it's not happening. So
he's still out.
You're talking about the same coach that's giving Carlos Hyde like multiple carries a game. So
right, he's still getting reps and everything. At this point, though, it's definitely apparent that Marvin Jones is the number one target for Trevor Lawrence. Like,
they need to use him like Deebo Samuel.
And the other thing too that's intriguing about Marvin Jones this week too is Trevor Lawrence has looked a lot better week by week. It's night and day. Like, he's gonna be a star. Like, the guy, it's gonna pan out. But even with Urban as his coach, I think he's still gonna be pretty good.
Well, I don't think Urban's gonna be his coach too much.
So something that I always like to target in DFS is I look at game spreads a lot and team totals and things like that. And when a team has they have a high spread, where like the Rams this week are 16-point favorites. So a lot of people are going to go to Darrell Henderson or Cooper Kupp, the big guys, basically. And Henderson is definitely somebody I would be interested in playing, because anytime you're that big of a favorite, they're going to run the game out in theory. Even though Stafford did throw lights out in that one, and really screwed up a lot of people's lineups that week. But man, I'm going to the well, and I've died here all years. I'm going with Tyler Higbee at tight end. The matchup's good. They're big favorites. God dang, if he can just fall in the end zone. He's still getting targeted. It's nothing crazy, but he's not completely ghosted out of your offense. So I like Tyler Higbee this week.
Yeah, and I mean, the Houston Texans have given up a top 10 performance to the tight end position every single week this year. That includes matchups against Jacksonville, Carolina, Arizona. This past week, Zach Ertz, first week with the team, fresh off the plane. Mo Cox caught a touchdown. The Texans at this point in the year, this is a very sticky stat, to where the Texans just clearly cannot, they can't defend any position really, but the tight end position specifically, they just, week after week after week, teams are targeting that matchup. So
I can tell you too, with Higbee, I think you're going to get a lot of like ownership to cheap tight ends this week. And he's not a huge pay up by any means. But if you want a piece of that Rams game without having a super owned Cooper Kupp or Darrell Henderson, because they're both going to be extremely popular. And this is a piece of it. Higbee has in the past, like last season, he had a game where he had, was it 3 touchdowns, Drew? Yep. So there is the upside of a ceiling with Tyler Higbee. And he's only $300 more of a pay up than the guy we had as a sleeper, Dan Arnold. I mean, $300 is nothing on DFS sites. It really makes no difference whatsoever. I would rather have the talent of Higbee with the possibility of like a 2 touchdown upside or something, and he could really break a slate with 2 touchdowns. With our flex position, I went back and forth, and I read a really good article the other day on this season in winning lineups. The wide receiver in the flex has been the better paying out position opposed to running back. But I'm making an exception to this one time because I'm going to start going that route more often myself. I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a huge game. And I know it goes without saying, but we have not played running backs against Tampa all year. I think this is a game where he gets 10 plus targets. I think he's going to get a ton of targets. I think they're going to run the ball with Mark Ingram a little bit, and that's going to take away from his rushing attempts, but he is going to be their pass catcher out of the backfield. And I think they're going to have to throw the ball quite a bit too, because Tampa is Tampa. And I think if they were somehow to get a lead, they're still going to throw the ball because they're scared Brady can bring a team back in no time. So I think Kamara is a smash this week. If you want to look outside of Alvin Kamara, there's options. Ceiling wise, you're looking at DeAndre Swift, but the ceiling between Alvin Kamara and DeAndre Swift are just night and day. You're talking about possibly a guy that can do 40 with the offense he's in, where DeAndre Swift, like I don't see Swift getting outside the 20 mark. And if we have remaining salary like that, you definitely want to pay up for a guy with a huge ceiling. And at that point, Alvin Kamara is a great play. So with that lineup too, we have a David Johnson who's going to get no ownership whatsoever. A Higbee that probably won't touch much ownership. So you're getting away from a team that's just completely owned by everybody with being different. And then with the defense, this one's for Landon because he's going to the game. I'm going to play the Indianapolis Colts as our defense on FanDuel. The Colts, the last time they played the Titans, they lost by a touchdown. They still had 7 fantasy points as a team.
3 turnovers.
They had 3 turnovers, and now they're at home and they're fully healthy. I mean, Derrick Henry's going to get his, but if they can keep him out of the end zone and force Tannehill to make some mistakes, which is possible. Tannehill's not been as efficient as he's been the last few years in Tennessee. The Colts definitely have a defense that at healthy, it can make some noise. They do give up a lot of deep balls, and it scares me fading AJ Brown in any lineup. But
I think too, they gave up a lot of deep balls because they've, for the better part of the last 4 or 5 weeks, they've been playing practice squad cornerbacks. So
yeah,
Rock Ya-Sin is back finally after like a 3-week absence. Who he has been their best cornerback by far on the season. Xavier Rhodes has another week that he's healthy, and we saw what kind of impact he made last week as well against San Francisco, which granted the weather there, was tough, but he still played really good, got the turnover there. Kenny Moore didn't play as good to start the season, but he's really kind of came into form. What worries me the most about their secondary right now is the fact that they're playing Andrew Sandejo because of Julian Blackmon's injury, and that guy is not good. So, I mean, they could hit a deep ball to AJ Brown for sure. I don't think it's out of the question, but I think those deep ball numbers over the last few weeks are a little skewed just because they're literally playing practice squad cornerbacks that they called up like the day before the game. So that's no longer an issue there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned DeAndre Swift. Actually, I like Swift a lot as a play this week as well. Swift, the Eagles are giving up the 3rd most points to the running back position. Now Swift won't get all those points because Jamal Williams is involved, but I do think Swift is a good play this weekend. And the one thing that concerns me about Mike Williams is while the general public might still view Keenan Allen as the main threat and the wide receiver one of that team, just because of the namesake and things like that, my assumption would be that Bill Belichick is probably coming into this game assuming that Mike Williams is the guy to take out. So that does make me nervous, but there could also be plenty of other people in the DSF world thinking that as well. And if that does not happen and Mike Williams hits, even though a lot of people were fading him based off the New England matchup, that could be, something that works in your favor just because of people viewing it in that fashion. But
I think his ownership is going to be somewhere around 10%. If you were
solid,
which is not too bad for a game that it has a decent total on it.
Right.
If you're wanting to, with this lineup we have right here, if you wanted to pivot off of Mike Williams, there's still $100 left. You could go. I'm not playing Stephon Diggs this week is because he's going to be the most popular wide receiver on the slate. Because I want to be different. You could go Diggs, or you can go DJ Moore. You can go Keenan Allen if you wanted to. So you can go DK Metcalf, who I absolutely love this week as well. He's getting a ton of targets. So there's options if you're not sold on Mike Williams. I personally, if I'm playing Herbert, I'm going to have Mike Williams.
Yeah, I like the stack, definitely. I do. That would just be my only concern with how the general public looks at that team versus how probably Belichick would look at it. But I agree. If you're playing Herbert, Mike Williams is the guy I would be stacking as well.
Yep. So that one, as for FanDuel, for DraftKings, we're going to keep it as close as possible. We still have Herbert, Williams in our stack, but actually the double stack on DraftKings, I'm going to have Jared Cook at the tight end position. We're going to go down that route once more. But Cook's shined this year in moments. And Is Eckler out officially, or is
not officially out yet? No, but he
okay.
I'd be
was
willing to bet
very.
he plays.
I hope so.
There's some talk about him still being active that they said like he was doing a little bit better today than he was yesterday, even though he still, didn't practice. But
I like Jared Cook no matter what this week,
yeah,
but
even
if
Eckler
Eckler's
plays,
out,
I think they're gonna, he might be active, but I don't know if they're gonna roll him out there like they
if
normally do.
Eckler is out for any reason, his target share is going to go towards the receivers. And I think Jared Cook is a part of that where he can definitely go over there. The only problem with rolling out Jared Cook is the potential of the backup who has a lot of talent as well. And that can bite you in the butt, but I think he is still their primary tight end and he's shown good weeks throughout the season. We're going to stick with David Johnson, Alvin Kamara at running back. The second wide receiver, I have DK and Metcalf against Jacksonville. It's hard with the quarterback situation with Geno, but Metcalf has scored. Russ went out in week 4, right? Or was it week 4 or 3?
It was whatever week they played the Rams. It was on that Thursday night football game. It was
that
week 5.
Week 5
is in the middle of week 5. Geno came into the game in week 5, and he started week 6 and week 7.
Okay. Yeah, it's not as good as I thought it was, but he's still getting the majority of the targets. He's out targeted Tyler Lockett, both in Geno Smith's games, and he's definitely the more explosive wide receiver out of that bunch. Jacksonville's secondary is not good whatsoever. It's in Seattle. You could have that one long bomb. And Metcalf proved it. What was it, Monday night? It doesn't have to be a bomb. Like, he can take it to the house any which way you put it. The talent is there. And he is at a very comfortable price of $6,800 on DraftKings. So that's, to me, he's actually someone I really, really want to get to as much as possible. Very low ownership. The third and final wide receiver out of the receiver groups. Oh, actually, we got one more. We got Marvin Jones. Once again, we want to keep it as close to the draft or the FanDuel stack as possible. Marvin Jones had 10 targets the previous week, and he's in a really good spot again this week in Seattle. Tight end was Jared Cook. In the flex, this one right here, Drew, you might be with me on this as well. I've got Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson's, he's seen 7 targets the previous game and a touchdown. He's had no less than 4 targets all season long. He's definitely not going to get the snap counts like Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods or anyone like that. But if this game blows out, like a lot of people think it should, Van Jefferson could easily be a part of that in some way. And I try to get some pieces like Higbee in the previous lineup. You want to get pieces from a game that has a high total like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the clear wide receiver 3 in terms of snaps on the season for them. And
see where Deshaun Jackson wants out.
Yeah, so they've mutually agreed to go after a trade. So Deshaun Jackson isn't going to play this weekend. They said that they're going to hold him out, just to make sure that he stays healthy, since they are looking for a trade. And while Deshaun Jackson hasn't been playing an incredible amount of snaps, it is still a number of snaps that won't go. I think he plays typically like 20-30% of snaps, and they didn't even play that much last week. But I think the role that you saw from Van Jefferson last week, that where Deshaun Jackson was basically missing, I think that's pretty much what you can expect moving forward. So yeah, he could be a boom or bust type of guy that could definitely, if he does hit with the price point he's at, it could definitely benefit your lineup for sure.
Absolutely. Outside of that, we have the Washington football team as our defense, because that's about all we can fit in at salary. That's not fun to play, but defense is a defense, especially on DraftKings. You have to spend that salary. So
Chase Young could still generate some pressures and make some noise. You never know.
They've not been
line, but their secondary is.
Their defense is the last couple weeks in fantasy wise, anyways. They had 7 and 8 points the last couple weeks. So they had against Green Bay, they had a fumble recovery and a blocked field goal, which those are 2 things that don't always happen in games. They looked good against Kansas City, but from a fantasy standpoint.
Well, so did the
So,
Titans. So.
Yeah. Kansas City, man.
What
So-
a weird storyline that one is.
Oh, man.
We talked
Yeah.
about it on the show earlier in the week.
Oh, I
Yeah,
listened.
we won't get too in depth to that one because we already
Yeah.
covered that plenty. But yeah, no, I do think Washington could be a surprising defensive play this weekend for sure with the matchup against them. You know, I talked about how I like Teddy possibly this weekend, but it could absolutely go the complete other way.
Yeah.
You know, with Chase Young's ability to wreck a game and the fact that Teddy just really isn't that good of a quarterback. So
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Alright.
to finalize on DraftKings, it was Herbert with David Johnson, Alvin Kamara, DK Metcalf, Mike Williams, Marvin Jones, Jared Cook, Van Jefferson, and the football team. That was the DraftKings lineup.
All right. So that takes care of DFS. Anything else you guys want to touch on while we're here? Anybody want to make any more jokes? Any more, I'm not even going to go.
You're done making jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, my joke making days are earlier. That wasn't even a joke. That was just, it is what it is. You know what I meant. That's all that matters. Clarified the comment. So yeah, that pretty much ends it. And we'll just let Drew do the closing and we'll just hop on out of here.
yeah, so as always, we appreciate you guys for listening. If you've made it this far, we definitely appreciate you guys for hanging out with us and, previewing week 8 and how we think it's going to play out. If you like what you heard, and surely if you've made it this far, you like some of what you heard, be sure to head over to anywhere you can find podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever the case may be. We are there. Just, give us a follow, subscribe, whatever that platform wants you to do. And then if you want the visuals to go with the audio, if you want to see how we react to our bad jokes, head over to the YouTube channel, the Amateur Experts Podcast, where you can subscribe to the channel there as well. Once you do subscribe, be sure to click on the little bell that's going to pop up so that you can be notified of the couple episodes a week that do go live, so that way that you can be made aware when the shows do pop up. It's only 2 a week, so we're not blowing your phone up with notifications, but you'll know whenever they do go live. And then, of course, while you're here, if you disagree with any of our takes on who we think is going to play well, not play well this weekend, or if you have your own opinions on different players we didn't cover, hop down in the comments and let us know, guys, you're high on or not so high on this weekend. Your smash or pass for, particular players, so that way we can continue the conversation in the YouTube comments as the weekend goes on. And then, of course, last but not least, please like the video while you're here as well. The likes and the comments and things like that do help us out and go a long way in helping our channel grow as well, so that we can reach more people and grow the discussion. So, but of course, the main thing is thank you guys, and we appreciate the support.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, if you want to get in the comments and cancel me, come right ahead, motherfuckers, because I don't care. Hope y'all have a wonderful evening and
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween. And hopefully, look, once I get
have fun
back,
in Indy, man.
Yeah, we're gonna be we're cutting a good show next week. I have a good feeling. So yeah, let's have some fun with it.
Tuesday night should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it should be for sure. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you next week. Go Colts.